So, like I said, I will continuously make videos and always put things in perspective. Um, I am a target individual. I'm a TI. As a TI, what I'm experiencing is the foulest things you can imagine, because I'm a human subject in the program where Department of Defense technology is implemented onto us. This technology is some of the most sophisticated technology and weapons, and that's why they're doing this, not just to be evil, but for the purpose of developing technology. And it's a weapon onto us. This technology is so advanced that the things that it can do to you in a remote tactic is just incredible. You cannot see what is happening to you. It's not something like a gun you shoot and you see, the bullet. No, things are done to you, and the people doing this to you are not visible, and it's it's quite advanced in that way. Not only the gang stalking, which you heard a lot. This is part of the tactics to kind of keep this human subject in a state of distress. I think it's part of how they have to operate, or not have to, but it's a tactic of keeping this human subject in a state of distress and stress. Because for some purpose, that is how the target individual needs to be in. Joy, not even joy, but happiness and excitement and ways of thinking in a positive way is not something they want. Matter of fact, they want the opposite. And when you feel excitement or happiness, if you feel happiness, they then try to do everything possible to create a noise campaign, as you hopefully can hear that, to try to kind of put you back in that state of mind. This technology has the ability to somehow connect your brain to some kind of device that then overlay any state of thoughts, any state of perceptions, memories, and all of that is manipulated. That's when you get these disgusting manipulations. They are so disturbing. So I'm saying that they're dry in my mouth. So, and the tactics are just disturbing, very pedophilia centric, and it's part of this tactic to just break you down. What I mean by pedophilia centric is they force you to experience stimulations and sexual reactions that are so disturbing and pedophilia centric. If I see a child, I will be forced to give sexual stimulation because this technology has complete control of your body. Matter of fact, even can make me say things that I'm not planning to say, but can control to have me speak the way they want me to say things and speak. For example, as I used a couple words, I say joy. This is a term that they forced me to say because early on today I was on the call with somebody who made me see that term. And so I was laughing at that, and they were trying to actually create something, and I realized, okay, the reason why they wanted me to see that is because they wanted to show the level of control they have over me, which is already aware. I'm already aware of that. I already know what I'm part of. I understand that the reality of what I'm involved in. I understand that this program is for the sole purpose of improving, developing a technology that can control an individual in so many ways. And you have to understand that you do not delude yourself in any other way, that this is not just for the fun of it. This is not just for the simple fact of torturing people. There is a real purpose, as diabolical it is, to just improve on something that is already very sophisticated. And like any machine learning technology where more and more sample is provided, the better and better this technology is. Now, I've already understood clearly that the entities running this program are entities connected to the DoD. This kind of resources are resources that only entities of that nature can provide. Entities that can provide that kind of resources are entities that control the world in the sense that there is no level of financing that they cannot get to. Matter of fact, I think I was looking at what they're predicting to provide for the annual spend for 2024. 1 year, I'm not talking about multiple years. 1 year, they talk about close to $900 billion, maybe 20 million less than that. I'm talking about close to $900 billion for 1 year, or $100 million away from $1 trillion for 1 year. It just needs a very small fraction for it to just provide, the resources needed for one sample like me, like one subject like me. And so no other entity has the capabilities or resources or even the technology to that level to do these things to target individual and invest so much for one target individual. But the purpose of this, like I said, is not for the fun of it. There's incentives, there's purpose, there's a certain goal that they need to acquire, and they're gonna go through it. And you have to see things for what they are. Do not think that these people are just want to hurt you because they no. Yes, they want to hurt you, but these people that you see, are definitely not the people in charge. They are what you call just the foot soldiers, or the bottom feeders, as I call them. They are the people who are implementing the tasks to create whatever is needed to acquire the result they need to get the results out of this human subject, which in case is me. Those people, those perps are what you call perps, are those contracted individuals who are civilian, who are not even connected directly to any of those agencies, but just kind of have contractions of some nature with buffers that who knows how deep are those buffers, but they're not the big deal. They're just anybody. And it seems like anybody can really partake in this. And the things they can do, because they're involved in this program, if you don't understand what it is, you can be shocked. For example, somebody opened the door and said something before I said it. They know that because my brain is hooked to this device, and they get the feeds and they know what I'm going to say, or even understand that I'm being controlled in that nature to say something. And they can say that before I say it, because they know that either I'm going to be manipulated to say that, or, they know that I'm thinking about saying that. This is pure control. And so you see people who don't even know what they're going to do in a few days, but can tell you everything you're going to experience. And everything, because your life at this point is now completely controlled and orchestrated. They do these disturbing manipulations, and they're so nasty. And I said it's pedophilia-centric. Then you hear these people who are contracted by governmental entities to try to gaslight you, or not to try, but actually gaslight you into accepting these manipulations as if it's you experiencing something that you would experience organically. And their job is to day in and day out to break you down into accepting whatever manipulation, which is usually, for me, consistently pedophilia-centric, or manipulation that is supposed to torment you. I can barely see anybody. For example, I remember somebody was trying to come in the elevator. They were trying to annoy me. I just look up. I don't know what exactly they look like. I know they're just Hispanic and short. In my brain now, they can create sensation stimulations like I could never I don't even know what she really looked like, right? But forcing me to get stimulation is just on people that you can barely see. And on children, it's the worst. They do these disgusting things. It's like that all the time. And it's just disturbing. And you have people of all sorts involving them in that. I noticed one thing is that they do the most is the more credibility that you have toward them, respect of some sort, or see them as people who are sensible individual, the better it is to manipulate you to believe this fantasy. So you'll see people who are credible in the sense that they are professional, they've done things, they have families and everything, try to get you to accept the things that you know is being manipulated. Then you hear the testimonials of what they do to children and women, and you realize, oh wow, this is disgusting and this is trash. At this point you call them a trash because you know what they're involved in. So for me, these perps, these people contracted, are neighbors like many others, are employers, are even clients of the employer that I'm working for. But it's disgusting because not only they do these manipulations that is implemented onto you where they condition and rewire your brain in these disgusting ways. They truly are trying to condition you to be somebody else. They want you to be identifying to things that you know you will never experience ever, naturally. But their job is to try to get you to accept this. But once you have been validated that, first of all, you know yourself and you know, I will not be experiencing this. Something is happening to my brain to make me feel this way. Something is being manipulated and rewiring my brain to experience this reaction. I will not react this way. I've been me long enough to know who I am, and I know that this is not something that I will experience organically. Something is being played with my brain. You know yourself. But to add validation is others have said the exact same thing that you have experienced. And so that validates you that not only this is not is something that they do to you, but they do that to so many others. And so you are validated. And on top of that, you are validated that these people are so disturbing and foul that they would torture, even sexually torture children. Let me repeat. They would sexually torture children. They will hurt children in ways that are sexual. For the purpose, of course, as always, to get the result they need to, because in this program, they are using this technology as a weapon. They want to see the emotions of the target individual to be at the worst they can be. And if they can hurt a child to hurt the target individual, they would do that easily and have done that, and you're going to hear that. Now, these people involved in this, as they try to get you to accept things that are manipulated, are then humiliated by certain things that just brings up the reality of things. For me, when they do this pedophilia type of torture, they say, what we're doing to your brain is we're making you experience a feeling or reaction that you have felt before in your childhood or somewhere there, where we're just bringing it back to that point of your childhood or whatever they're saying. And so they're saying that, yes, we're manipulating you to experience something, but we map that reaction to something you experienced before. Initially, they said it's childhood, then they try to kind of blur it up. It's like, no, sometime like that, you know. To try to kind of, because it sounds that stupid to say, like, no, we make you feel something you felt when you were a kid. It's like, why are you making me a child? It doesn't even make sense. And so they try to kind of change things up, which is even more, the childhood part is, because as a kid, you grow up feeling feelings, and then your body is still developing. Your brain is just still developing. So they can be like, oh no, when you were 10, you felt that weird feeling. Remember? See, that's that. We mapped it to that. Remember when you were like humping the couches or the cushion? That's what you feel. It's so disturbing. And for me, there's some dumb thing I did when I was in middle school. Some stupid thing that they have to exaggerate in order to try to make me subscribe to what I'm experiencing today. A dumb moment of a child who just hit 14 or about to hit 14 years old. Pure testosterone just in and out, and just discovered himself and now did some stupid thing. It was an impulsive moment of a child. Now, do I think these people understand that? Of course, not only they understand that, they know better. Some of them are parents to children in middle school. So, what they make you experience is the nasty reaction that they've done to others. It's disturbing. For example, I will talk about it in a few minutes, but they make you have a stimulation, nasty sensation in it's just so foul. Just look at it. For me specifically, little girls is the worst. They crank it up and give me this nasty sensation, and it's so disturbing. I'm like, what the hell? You know, it's just like, why is that? I'm like, why am I feeling this weird feeling? That's a feeling that I'm being forced to experience today. And now they're like, no, you were when you were a kid, so what we're doing will make you feel like a kid. It's like, no, no. Even when I was a kid, I was able to see this normally, but now I can feel this weird feeling just being released in my brain. That's just weird. I don't know what it is. It's just like some kind of brain chemical that you feel just kind of released. It's just, I don't know. But something's just being played with in my brain to give some reaction. That's disturbing. Make you disgusting. You feel disgusting. But that's the things you experience today, because your brain, your body is no longer yours. Your brain, your body is a guinea pig, a subject for the development of this technology that's used as a weapon to play with you, to get reaction, to break you down, and to disturb you. Now, those entities related to the DoD, DARPA is absolutely involved in this, because the technology that we're talking about are neurotechnology, are directed energy weapons, and we're talking about very sophisticated technology and advanced technology, and we're talking about satellites, and we're talking about the most advanced technology the Department of Defense can have implemented on the human subject. Why? That's for the purpose of developing those technology. Why are they doing that? Spending so much energy, effort, finances, technology onto one individual for sole purpose of developing this technology, these weapons. You're not special. It's just they need human subject to do these things too. You have to accept the reality of what we'll go through. But this perps want to live a deluded reality where they now try to make you accept this nasty manipulation. And for them to do this, they themselves start like, even though they're the one seeing the changes in the manipulation in your brain, I try to play along. It's like, oh, you're gonna pay. They get so mad when they do these manipulations to gaslight you into accepting this manipulation when they know damn well that this is a tactic that has been used on so many others to break them down. It's obvious there's a pattern of how they break people down, and the pedophilia type of torture is what they do. When they try to say, no, we mapped it to you as a kid, it's like, are you, you think I'm going to let you be this retarded, this childlike? I'm sorry. Imagine I'm looking at you. No, it's you when you're in middle school. You understand that just these people know better. Some of them have actually children, so I'm like, phew, okay. But the entities, and this is why I'm making these videos, the entities that have been running this program are entities with patterns that are so obvious. There's been a pattern of pedophilia in these agencies, in these DoD entities. It's been ongoing for decades. It keeps coming back over and over. There was this bill that was supposed to be passed. The bill was called End Network Abuse Act. It was, I think, in 2019. They proposed it then. It was denied, or it was over. It was killed in 2020, December. That bill was supposed to help the DoD stop the issue of child porn being passed around, peer-to-peer, because apparently the Department of Defense network is ranked, or was ranked in 2018 as the 19th out of almost 3,000, not quite 3,000, I think it was 2830 something, network with the most shared child porn between peer-to-peer, between peer-to-peer and sharing child porn. The DoD network, the Department of Defense network, because they have their own network, secure network for Department of Defense network, they are sharing child porn So much that out of all these almost 3,000, they're number 19. Using, and this is, I'm talking about the Department of Defense network. I think you don't understand how nasty it is. That means this is using government devices on government network. We're not talking about private devices, private like network or some sort. We're talking about DoD devices and DoD network. It is so freaking scary to see the level of pattern and of a problem pedophilia is in those agencies. It's just beyond, because this is not even scratching the surface. This is just like the most obvious ways. Like it's not even like, let's not count the people who try to be sneaky about it. We're talking about the people who just don't care to the point where they're just sharing child porn with their peers using the Department of Defense devices and network. It is disturbing to the point that this bill and Network Abuse Act was trying to stop this thing. Obviously, it didn't go through. Apparently, it died. I thought it went through. I thought it was passed. It seemed like it was dead on December of 2020. Now, maybe at this point it has passed now, but I don't see any sign. This was the hardest things to find information about. I tried to look onto the search engine. It was so hard to see any video about it. I mean, it seems like nobody was talking about it. It's just like nobody cared. This is the kind of things that everybody would want to talk about it. What? DoD network is the 19th out of almost 3,000? What? What do you mean? Nobody really talked about it. It's like, that should be like news everywhere. Nothing. Like just a little bit here and there. CNN actually did something about it, talked about it. USA Today, but it's not like it did not go too far. It just seems like people kind of forget about it. And it's disturbing because these people, like I said, these perps, those contracted perps, these contracted civilians, their job is to do what they do to me, try to make me accept this pedophilia type of torture. But to add the cherry on top of all the cherry, forget about the validation that I know they do the pedophilia type of torture, because not only I know myself, but I know that they do that to others. You're going to hear that others have literally said that. You know they torture children, so you know these people who would torture children, even sexually, would definitely do something to you to train your brain, to condition your brain in these disgusting ways, make you have dreams and disturbing things. If they can do horrible things to even 3-week-old infants, what do you think they can do to you? They would do horrible things to you. And they can manipulate you in ways that are disturbing enough like that. If they can actually hurt children, what can they do to you physically and psychologically? So you know they do the pedophilia type of torture because they've said, others have said that. You know they can torture children, so you know they're not here to protect children, so they can do these disturbing things. They even cause mass shooting, but that's a whole different thing. It's not a whole different thing. It's not something I'd rather talk about it right now. But that's the reality of things. Actually, sorry, yes, you'll hear what they do in regard to mass shooting. It is disgusting. Now, with this validation, the perps that was supposed to create this psyop on my end were supposed to be perps that were supposedly progressive, protectors of some sort, people who are supposed to do good things and make the community safe. But in reality, these people are trash. The reason why they were trying to create this psyop is because the organization who put me in this program is an organization that is extremely conservative. It was a company that I worked for. It is still a company, and that company has so much influence in this governmental state of places right now. They are the biggest donors on the conservative side of things. They have donated money to some of the people like you can't even imagine. Even people who are so bad that Trump himself didn't even want to align themselves, they want to be with. They donated money to that person. For example, there's one individual they don't like to talk about. Well, they don't like to say his name. I don't know if there's a restriction. It appears there's some kind of restriction for the person to not say this word. Roy Moore. Now, he has nothing to do with me being in this program, but my employer donated to this man's campaign. And so I always look at that as the reality, as they forced me to get stimulation. I remember that this is a man who allegedly was picking up kids as young as 14 years old, and they can't say his name because of some kind of restriction. And I'm like, and they like to say things that are agitating you. So I'm dealing with synthetic telepathy, which is why I talked about the brain being just manipulated and rewired. But V2K is the voice to sculpt technology that can literally, you can hear the projected voices of these perps. It sounds like their neighbors. Sometimes it's not really the close neighbors. It could be people upstairs, downstairs, or across the building. But the technology can really project their voices onto your brain, and it sounds almost like they're close to you behind these walls or whatever. And the truth is, they can definitely not be around you. They could be on the first floor, on the second floor, on the third floor. They could be over there, like all of that. And as I'm saying that, they try to do some things to disturb me, and they say things to agitate you. We're God. Well, I've seen some of these perps interacting with you, because they are visible sometimes, and they try to come in person to try to make you believe this bullshit. And you see how fragile they are, how fraudulent they are, how fake, and you say, wow, you're just obviously just a nobody. But I understand you're involved in this program that can do so much to a human subject, and you want me to have you imagine you as a mystical being when you're just a trash the government just contracted. And you can't even say Roy Moore. If you're God, what is Roy Moore then? To you. Because I'm saying this dude's name, this person's name, with no worries. Roy Moore. I can look at you and say that. Say that back to me. Okay, I am nothing, you're something. This is just for me to bring back things to reality, because I know what they are. They are just perps contracted by the government to do these things to us, and can do so much to your body because they work for these governmental entities that happen to have a bunch of pedophiles in these agencies. They sold their soul to pedos for them to be able to do these things to us. And I used to say that, and didn't know the level of issue they had, but it's crazy. And sometimes they try to say, no, but we're women. They use their feminism, like as being their gender, as a way to counter reality. At the end of this video, you're going to hear a woman say one thing: there's a lot of females in this program. Yes, there's a lot of females in this program. And those females are perps, just like those males that are speaking to us via V2K. You know, one thing they even try to do is, because they try to play so progressive, that the person who tried to pass this bill, it's a woman. And like you see, that's a woman. But this woman actually, interestingly enough, used to work for the CIA. She was a former CIA agent. Lately, in 2021, a BuzzFeed article comes up. That's what I'm saying. Every year there's something, or every other year. This BuzzFeed article comes up and speaks about specifically CIA having some of the worst issue with pedophilia, and nothing is happening to them. They're saying that CIA has been having patterns for a long time of CIA agents doing things to children and nothing happening to them. One CIA agent was caught with about 1,400 child porn on his government device. You understand? Now, this person, this woman, who tried to pass this bill, obviously didn't work out now, but she was in an entity that had a lot of problem. That was, now, please understand, this bill was tried to be passed before this new article, this BuzzFeed article that exposes specifically the intelligence community, which obviously CIA is really big onto that. And that bill was trying to focus more on military, when the reality, the intelligence community had a lot of problem too. Matter of fact, if you hear and if you read about the Operation Flicker, which was an operation where Custom, ICE got together because of an investigation for a child porn website ran by a external crime ring from Belarus and Ukraine. They needed agencies that focuses on crime that is done from people externally but is involving people internally. That's why Customs, when you send your packages, Customs are the one going through this. Custom is also involved because it's coming from outside going in, and then immigration, because this is entities that also are from external entities try to come in and do things harmful internally here. So that's why they have to be involved. And so when they did that, in 2007, they did this investigation. They found 5,000 or so email were registered to get this child porn monthly providing. They paid a fee of like $50 or $60 per month or something like that, and they will get child porn sent to this email. They sign up for it. Like, it's so disturbing. And so those 5,000 or 5,200, they saw there was like probably they noticed that there was a lot of people working in the Pentagon. So they gave that to the Pentagon to handle. And they didn't check all the 5,200. They checked maybe 3,500 or so. Out of the 3,500, altogether, I think there's 320. A partial of them, they knew for sure they were Pentagon people, and like they were military. There's even NSA and other like agencies that were in this email, like employees from NSA, some military, some civilians, but all working for the Pentagon. Altogether, they started from 5,000. That altogether 5,200, 39 of them were reviewed by the Pentagon, and 300 or something were like they knew they were Pentagon employees, and a single digit amount were ever prosecuted. So you understand that it's just kind of crazy. But in 2021, this BuzzFeed article comes up calling out specifically the intelligence community having multiple issues with child porn and Pentagon in different agencies. Then there's also this addition of a director of the DSS saying how shocked he was to see the amount of child porn he would see on the computers of people employed in the DOD. We're not talking about military only. We're talking about agencies. People working behind those computers. Shocked. He was shocked by the amount of child porn he saw. Now, there is plenty obvious pattern that we're seeing here. There are a bunch of pedos in these agencies. This pedophilia type of torture have been tortured. They've been implementing onto so many others. And it's disgusting that they try to even use their gender as if that makes them less obviously involved in entities that have problem with pedophilia. Just because you're a mother doesn't not make you a perfect person, or not even a good person. You might be great to your children, but still be involved in the foulest thing ever. They think that your gender or even your status in regard of like who you might be great to your kids, but don't care about other kids. Or being normalizing something that's been disgusting because you work for a culture, an entity that is so disturbingly pedophilia centric that you have normalized it. It's disgusting. Can you imagine try to use the gender? What nastiness, especially when you're a mother. And to think that this former CIA who tried to pass a bill that didn't go through because there's two, like this is so crazy. That would be the easiest thing to pass. Didn't get passed because there is a culture there. If he passed it, what would he fail the first time? It's because there is an issue. There's something there that is a problem. And I'm sure this person wanted to make herself appear a certain way, protective of children and whatnot. And she has her political aspect of things, which apparently she's running again. But the CIA, oh my gosh, BuzzFeed literally called out CIA being having the most problem out of all the agencies. It's so disgusting. I wonder if this was just a way to kind of distract people. It's like, oh, we'll just try to do something. But either way, this thing keeps coming back in different version. It keeps coming back and shows that there's a pattern that's been obviously there. These people are here to do disturbing things. These agencies are running this program. These programs are torturing even children and do the pedophilia type of torture. And women who are target individuals even call out the fact there's a lot of females involved in this. To all my target individual, I've said so many times, these people have sold their soul to pedophiles. Do not fall for the psyop, the way they present themselves. No matter if it's a man or a woman, there is a pedophilia-centric culture in these entities. The way they torture us is very pedophilia-centric. This is basically, I said, this is like the perfect place somebody who's a pedophile would love to work. Do you have the best network apparently to share your child porn? Ask your colleagues. This thing is disgusting. I will never let them live their fantasy. They try to use whatever they can. It's a woman. You see, it's a CIA woman with a child that was like, what? This thing didn't even pass. And you know CIA is the worst. And a woman or not, what does it mean? This is a systematic issue. This program have tendency to utilize pedophilia type of tormenting. Women are literally saying there's a bunch of pedos in these agencies. You know this CIA, how disgusting it is now? Because this wokeism has been a way to kind of recruit younger people. They were mocking the CIA for trying to act woke. Having ads to appear like they are woke entities. It was comical. Because the CIA will always be the CIA. They do the foulest things you can imagine. You can never think, oh, the CIA, oh, is such a great, nice, like, no, these people will kill a baby in a heartbeat. What? It's the CIA. They would do human experimentation on the child. You and your bring your, hey, how's your kids? Great. Oh, great. Okay, let's get back to work. Torturing children. Like they weren't parents and mothers working the CIA when they were doing the MK Ultra stuff, or the fathers weren't. Like you understand? Or when they were doing whatever the way they want you to think is delusional. But I'm done talking. Listen to the obvious issues. Listen. I've said it before. People are... perps want to break you down and make you accept a false reality. The reality are those entities are running the program. They do these falsified psyops that try to counter the fact there's a bunch of pedophiles. I swear that some clients will just try to point out that, oh, she's a mother. So who? The person who tries to pass the bill, you see, we're mothers too. So what? Is this mother involved in a program that tortures children? Because you are, and you're a mother. Oh, by the way, the CIA, a bunch of pedos. Oh, by the way, those entities, you know what she was trying to do? Yeah, she was trying to cut down on the pedophilia issues with pedophiles passing each other child porn. So pathetic. So, the reality is that I will never let them live the fantasy. I'll never. So sad. But at the end of the day, I'm so glad that I got to see things for what they are as they try to change the reality. Please listen to this. It's a long video, but I ask you to watch everything till the end.
For links to the proliferation of graphic material. Called Project Flicker, some 5,000 individuals have been identified as having subscriptions to child porn sites, including many DoD-affiliated persons. So this ongoing national investigation has now prompted the House to introduce a bipartisan bill that would help the DoD stop the use of its network to, quote, possess, procure, or produce child pornography. Joining us to discuss this, investigative journalist Ben Swann. So Ben, the Pentagon already takes measures to limit worker access to stuff like porn by rolling out what they call the Personal Electronic Device PED policy, where workers have to drop off their phones and lockers before entering their offices. All their online searches are accessible by security if or when needed. Their Wi-Fi access is monitored in digital security sweeps. So how is this happening?
Well, it's happening because even though there is a certain amount of limitation on access, those who are working in the Department of Defense, clearly it appears to be thousands of individuals in the Department of Defense, are finding ways around this, specifically by using the Department of Defense IP addresses and also apparently peer-to-peer sharing within the department's network. So this study that was done on this issue, and it is pretty horrifying, Manila, to consider this. It shows that the Department of Defense ranked 19th out of almost 3,000 networks in terms of peer-to-peer sharing of child pornography. That is absolutely incredible. This bill attempts to essentially say, look, we're not doing enough to stop it from coming in, but we're also not doing enough in the Department of Defense to go after those individuals who are being recognized as the ones who are perpetrating this.
So Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger is the co-author to this bill. She said this, quote, the notion that the Department of Defense's network and Pentagon-issued computers may be used to view, create, or circulate such horrifying images is a shameful disgrace and one we must fight head-on. Now, the fact that the Pentagon workers, be they civil or military or otherwise, already submit to a gauntlet of daily scrutiny just going in and out of work, is it fair then to the tens of thousands who are completely innocent to further allow that much more government intrusion into their digital devices or the things that they're dealing with on their computers?
Well, remember that what's being talked about here is not an intrusion into someone's personal device or even their home. This is about saying Department of Defense computers are being misused to share, to spread, to access child pornography. And when you step into an office, whether it's a Department of Defense office or it's the offices at RT America, wherever you go into an office, you do not have the right to simply use the technology within that office space however you want, and you certainly don't have the right to use it in a criminal manner. So essentially, this bill is trying to do, again, two things. It's trying to limit that and crack down on the misuse of those computer systems, but it also is going after those individuals. One of the things that this bill attempts to do, and there's a Senate version of it put together by Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, but essentially what these two bills are trying to do is say, look, the Department of Defense does not have an adequate way of responding to this, of tracking down and investigating who as an individual is misusing these computers, who is sharing these pornographic images of children, who is sending them to whom. And so one of the things it does is the bill actually opens up civilian law enforcement to come in and to work with the Pentagon and with the DoD to actually investigate and to track down who is misusing, again, these computers for this purpose. So the bill, it's about more than just stopping it. It's about going after those who have been perpetrating it, who so far aren't being gone after.
Now, Ben, you and I, obviously, we're both parents here, and this is something that is terrifying, I think, to anybody that is a parent. What about the bigger... Infuriating. I mean, it's disgusting and maddening. The bigger picture here, Ben, how do we, the people, crack down on this? It's a disgusting crime. How is this continuing to proliferate in a day where they can track your every movement and what you do?
Well, because clearly in this case, these are the people who are helping to do the tracking. I know NSA and a lot of these civilian agencies do, but when you reach a certain point within these military spaces, a lot of these people apparently feel that they can go untouched. And so far, they pretty much have. About 80% of the cases where child pornography has been sent through these DoD servers have not been prosecuted, have not even been looked at or tracked down. 80% of them, Manila. So the majority of the people who are doing this through the Department of Defense are not having to pay any kind of price for it. I think this is a very serious issue, but it's also an issue that we need to recognize is a very real issue.
Yeah.
When people talk about child pornography or predators out there, we are being limited to a discussion of that, the creepy person who lives in a certain house, and that's where we want to talk about it. But when we talk about it on a bigger spectrum, military, government, those who are in power, people don't want to discuss it. It's a very real issue.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that there's some 25,000 people that go in and out of the Pentagon every single day. And a lot of these, I mean, they have to have some level of clearance to begin with. But I think some of the people that are not being prosecuted are some of the ones who have the highest clearances in this country. So that's kind of a scary thing to think about.
Some of these people we know have the highest classification in terms of classified access to information and material, and that's pretty scary. That
is scary that some of those people might be these gross individuals sharing this kind of information. All right, Ben Swann, as always, appreciate your take on this. Thank you.
Bipartisan bill aims to stop child pornography trafficking on Defense Department's network. Dem Rep-elect, I won't vote for Pelosi. We need new leadership. Washington CNN. A bipartisan group of lawmakers on Tuesday introduced A bipartisan group of lawmakers on Tuesday. A bipartisan group of lawmakers on Tuesday introduced a bill that would crack down on the use of the Department of Defense Internet network for trafficking child pornography. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement identified over 5,000 individuals, several of whom are affiliated with the Defense Department, who subscribe to child pornography websites in an investigation called Project Flicker. A subsequent inquiry by the Defense Criminal Investigative Service tagged hundreds of Defense Department affiliates as suspects in child pornography cases, according to a news release. The bill, introduced by Rep. Abigail Spanberger, a Virginia Democrat, and Rep. Mark Meadows, a North Carolina Republican, would help the Defense Department stamp out use of its computers and network to access and share child pornography. The legislation would bolster training, improve technical capacities, and require collaboration with both law enforcement and social service providers. Spanberger, a former federal agent who worked on child exploitation and child pornography cases, called the abuse and exploitation of children through pornography horrific crimes. The notion that the Department of Defense's network and Pentagon-issued computers may be used to view, create, or circulate such horrifying images is a shameful disgrace, and one we must fight head-on. Spanberger said in a statement. According to child pornography watchdog Internet Crimes Against Children Child Online Protective Services, the Defense Department network consistently ranks in the top tier of Internet service providers for trafficking child pornography. It ranked 19th of nearly 3,000 networks surveyed in 2018. Meadows said the legislation could close security gaps in the Department of Defense's network to identify perpetrators and ultimately hold them responsible. Reps Anna Eshoo and T.J. Cox, both California Democrats, co-sponsored the House bill. A similar Senate bill was introduced by Sens. Brian Schatz, a Hawaii Democrat, and Lisa Murkowski, an Alaska Republican, in May.
Okay, as you can see, this is the bill that was trying to be passed. Actually, ended up not passing. It seems like he was dead on December 31st, 2020, literally 3 years ago. This is the bill that was supposed to kind of help DoD fight and combat the sharing of peer-to-peer child porn between different employees at the Pentagon. And unfortunately, it's so nasty that it didn't go through. It was denied. I don't know how that's just insanity. You know how hard to find information about this it is. I don't. It's just like you can't find that anywhere. I mean, it's just so hard to get some information about this. But either way, just to show how pedophilia-centric this world is in regard of like this Department of Defense and governmental, a bill that's supposed to kind of help out some of the issue that's ongoing in the DoD was not passed. I mean, they weren't even asking crazy things. They're just saying like, give more, financial help in regard of like trying to help stop that thing. And it's not some crazy things. It's just, and they weren't asking too much. And that didn't even go through. You gotta understand, the DoD got billions and billions and billions of budget every year increasing. And a simple thing just to kind of help with the DoD to have better resources to help stop child porn being passed around within the network, that was denied. I just want to put things back in perspective. Reality is reality. And reality is not escapable. I've accepted the reality and I'm not going to let people involved in a program where these entities are running the program and try to make me accept the way to make me experience things. But please see the reality for what it is.
Not being prosecuted? Where are
some
1,700 potential cases that were referred to military investigators 4 years ago but were never screened. Gordon S. Hedel, the Department of Defense's Inspector General, said in a statement to the Globe that his office is working aggressively to correct the mishandling of cases identified in a multi-department government probe called Operation Flicker. I can assure those with questions that my office is conducting an aggressive pursuit of anyone implicated in Operation Flicker and that it is a key investigative priority, Hedel said in his first public statement on the matter. The Pentagon agency has faced intense criticism in recent months for its part of a nationwide child pornography investigation that was spearheaded by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, which has jurisdiction for such federal crimes under its mandate. The Globe reported earlier this week the Pentagon had checked only 3,500 out of 5,200 people who were suspected of downloading child pornography. The partial screening of that list, which was conducted in 2007, identified 302 people who were military personnel, civilian employees, or private contractors. Some of those held high-level security clearances and worked at sensitive intelligence agencies such as the National Security Agency, which eavesdrops on enemy communications. Several also accessed the images on their work computers, a separate violation. Out of the 302 cases, 70 were eventually pursued, and only a handful resulted in prosecutions.
So, you hear this.
CIA raping children and sexually assaulting children, and they're not being prosecuted? Where are you?
Oh,
That's the thing.
Target. They're following the handbook perfectly. So whoever the handlers are, these are typical CIA torture scripts. I mean, Kubark manual. And they do good cop, bad cop interrogation called Jeff and Mutt, and they go right through the list, right? Just textbook. So whoever the handlers are on the other side of this synthetic telepathy, they're following the handbook perfectly.
2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was simply fired. One employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers. He resigned. One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments. Not sure what actions, if any, were taken by him. One contractor arranged for sex with an undercover FBI agent. I think that you mentioned that. Posing as a child, he had his contract revoked. One CIA staffer was charged with child sexual crimes, and the employee was also under investigation for mishandling classified material. But sexual crimes involving children, says BuzzFeed, including the viewing of images of abuse, have been uncovered at other agencies that handle sensitive information. In a November 2009 report, the Department of Defense acknowledged that dozens of Pentagon staff members or contractors had such images. In 2014, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community found that 2 officials from the National Reconnaissance Office, which oversees America's spy satellites, acknowledged viewing images of child sexual abuse during polygraph examinations. This is so disturbing. At a symposium in 2016, Daniel Payne, a top Pentagon security official, said that when workers' computers were examined, the amount of child porn I see is just unbelievable. Is this something that is happening in the general evil?
Allie, we're told, and when I was put through recruitment into the intel community, you're put through polygraphs, you're put through a rigorous selection process. Why aren't these people weeded out? Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired? Can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your online footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking, these digital footprints, they're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks? If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number one, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number two, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting behind
goal? This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted and sexual, as well as just
able to impose any information on the brain of a person, presumably by some kind of waves, which in the mind take the form of voices, thoughts, and images in imagination. In addition to this kind of implanting information that they need, they manipulate the psyche so that the information is written into your memory. Then by stimulating the certain regions in the brain, they can retrieve this information and present it as your own memory. This is the conclusion that can be made judging by the influence they have been making on me with their psychotronic weapons, for example, artificial thoughts, imagination, and mental torture.
End my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. This disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through weapons. I don't know. I don't
to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the threat of planted.
Human breakdown tactic of belief systems and the human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds.
They would never take my will, and since we all know how the psychopaths groups work with what the TI says or does, then they started during the nights to run some kind of beam where suddenly I've been wakened up at 3 o'clock in the mornings and some kind of voice comes and say phrases, sound incomprehensible, and some other times can actually catch what is saying, ITS not my voice, a different voice, and I realize that they are trying to program for me to take it in a way that I won't notice a possible change in my behavior. Of course this is not new, because one main thing this program is out there, is called behavior modification for the undesirable, and that's one of the excuses this groups give for the neighbor TO join, deception. I learned to talk back, in my mind, during the process when I was awakened, and I would say demeaning things, that I cannot repeat it in this blog, you know what I mean. Since they had violated me for so long, I decided to aggravate them with words in my mind. I can hear my own voice. I told them I'm going to make you pay for all of the years of torture that I've taken, and all you are going to hear is aggravation. For every single second of my privacy that you have taken away. From me and my family. Ben said this: the slaves began a program of perversion. First was with my dog. I am very playful with my pet, and suddenly one day that I was petting him I felt strange, in the sense of the word. I thought, this is strange, and then afterwards that strange sensation continued. Then in that moment I realized that was impost, so I thought, look at this losers, don't know how to put me down, and they are doing this. So I told them that I know what you are trying to do, and I started laughing, and then I said again out loud, you'll never take my will, ASS, so just to show them that I meant what I said, I kept playing with my dog, and even though that attacks continue, I don't let them get me. Today they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use. A people, better said young people, also children and homosexuals. When I aggravated them I usually called demeaning names, and one of them is referring to homosexuals. For me all of the slaves are misfits, society haters, scumbags, etc. No, I don't have anything personal against them, homosexuals, but as my way to aggravate the slaves, and since they love to use children for the torture and stalking, street theater etc. Especially teenagers for the stalking at close range with an attitude, they are using them during my sleep in the perversion program, and so you can imagine what the slaves of torture are pretending to do to me. In the last days, as today September 9th, 07, anything I do, either watching TV or reading of whatever I'm doing, they brush me sort of say, I feel like I'm aroused all day and I feel the palpitations in my genitals, for what I'm thinking, and since the attack comes so quickly, I realized my programming has been set on auto, in their central computers, no handlers could do something like this that quick. What make me realized, the slaves are desperate to get me. Unfortunately for them they are facing a strong wall where no matter how much their computers EAP me, I know I'm not changing. As I said, I feel like they've been set up a beam where I feel constantly stimulated. I'm talking sexually, like a heat in my genitalia.
A speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic. And they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. For example, they would also sometimes make her bite her hand, threatening to make me bite my hands, as they often do. One day, she had a large, severe bite mark on her arm. She has also grabbed her crotch, saying, "Ow," and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture. One day I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "Ow." I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom, but he said no to having to use the restroom and was not able to verbalize anything more due to his language delay. He looked puzzled and bewildered. Even though I had stated that it was time to do more work right before this incident, I quickly just let him play another game, and he quickly returned to his joyful, happy self again. In other sessions, he has also grabbed his crotch and said, "Ow," while looking up at me.
And have had a decent education. I live in El Dorado Hills, California, with my wife of 14 years, Lorna, and our 5 children. Nicole is 15, Patricia 14, Christopher 13, Dylan 9, and on her body after a few days of torture. We were told by a couple doctors to take her home and love her and spend the rest of the time we have with her. They told us she would ultimately die from this syndrome. Thank God that Lerner's syndrome was not what affected our daughter. Doctors are still dumbfounded by her rash and symptoms. Sadly, we know that her symptoms were effects from the torture this poor innocent 3-week-old baby endured. Recently, I lost complete time. I exhibited the flashing lights. My 9-year-old son Dylan complained about the lights. You will often hear that vision is something that is greatly affected with this type of torture.
So you...
Ms. Catherine Nestor.
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutmann to begin today. There is new work for the Commission for Human Subject Protection on our shores. And please give us a dramatic response, Susan, and please give us a congressional hearing. Thank you.
Research. I too believe my experience is referred to as no-touch torture, utilizing defense technologies. Jonathan Marino, he basically predicted all this a number of years ago in his book Undue Risk. I'm asking you to help initiate a congressional investigation. We've all come a long way. This is what is needed. We want to have the accounts of this extreme human rights abuse that's going on in our country documented and heard, all of the accounts. We also need what was done during the Clinton administration, which is a major declassification of some of these documents that are hiding what's been going on. I speak for many when I say we've suffered long enough. My personal experience has been 10 years. I've been vilified. I've been ostracized. I've been tortured. I have burns on my body. I'm an American. I have rights. The answer to the question, the big question today, could it happen today? The answer is yes, it is happening today. It is happening for some of us every day. I am begging for you to help us. Thank you.
To be shot in the face, and it was an older guy. He was like really, really disgruntled and pissed off. Yeah, she's gonna get shot in the face. You know, sound like an angry ass old person. You know, then a couple of days later, a female said the same thing. Gonna get shot in the face. You know, stupid shit like that. But what I really noticed is with the Voice of Skull, it's a bunch of females. You know, and I'm like, bro, really? You're not a woman. What real woman would stalk another female or sit back and allow that to go on? You really think they think it's nothing wrong with them, basically? You know, they call me retarded bitch and all of this here, but I was top of my class in everything that I did. You know, every class I took, I excelled
any part of the body. This technology can be used to sexually manipulate the target. It can make the target feel sexual arousal, or it can sort of turn off the
today. The mass shooting that occurred in Maine last week, killing 18 people, was the country's deadliest of the year. It may also have been one of the most avoidable.
Army reservist, and the documents show that these warnings concerned his deteriorating mental health, rising paranoia and anger, and they came from pretty much every part of his life. But as we now know, none of those warnings prevented this mass shooting.
Well, Nick, where should we start in the story of those warnings? You mentioned that they go back many months.
I mean, the first time when the local police are really made aware that this guy is a concern is about 5 months ago in May, when his ex-wife and teenage son go to a school resource officer, and the school resource officer calls down a sheriff's deputy to speak with the family. And in that interview, the teenage son and the ex-wife say that he has started to hear voices. He's started to be increasingly paranoid and angry. They also note he has collected about 10 to 15 guns that he kept at a relative's house and brought them back to his. So they're going to the police and saying that he has access to a large number of firearms. I mean, they were very worried about him, and I think what they also were... I think that's right.
Okay, so what happens next?
So the next thing we know that happens is in July. Card travels with his reserve unit to West Point, New York, for an annual training exercise. And there's a very concerning incident that takes place. They're all hanging out together at a motel, and he starts accusing them of calling him a pedophile. This is one of his paranoid delusions that comes up repeatedly. He shoves one at one point, and everyone is just freaked. Travels with his reserve unit to West Point, New York, for an annual training exercise. And there's a very concerning incident that takes place. They're all hanging out together at a motel, and he starts accusing them of calling him a pedophile. This is one of his paranoid delusions that comes up repeatedly. He, at a motel, and he starts accusing them of calling him a pedophile. This is one of his paranoid delusions that comes up repeatedly. He shoves one at one point, and everyone is just freaked.
About his time spent here in New Mexico.
As sick as this may sound, I've even had stalkers follow me into church while I was in Las Cruces and in Houston. I've had stalkers follow me into church to harass me.
May had worked as a prosecutor in Las Cruces just weeks before the shooting. In his last words, May speaks of his paranoia and coins himself as a targeted individual who's been a victim of stalking and harassment. He talked about a trip to Houston where he said cars would drive by and honk their horns every 10 minutes to keep him on the edge and agitated.
Father, forgive me for what I'm about to do. Forgive me for all of my sins, past sins, present sins, any future sins.
Why? Was a mentally unstable individual. This shotgun is the primary murder weapon. On it, he etched a number of carvings, including "End to the Torment," "Better Off This Way," and "My ELF Weapon." Alexis had been hearing voices and believed he was being bombarded by microwaves, something naval authorities knew about.
There are multiple indicators that Alexis held a delusional belief that he was being controlled or influenced by extremely low frequency, or ELF, electromagnetic waves.
And in his computer files, the FBI found this.
A document retrieved from the electronic media stated, quote, "Ultra-low frequency attack is what I've been subject to for the last 3 months. And to be perfectly honest, that is what has driven me to this."
And so on what should have been a routine day, Alexis killed 12 people: mothers, fathers, sons, daughters.
Diane, they never had a chance, and still no answers